ladies and gentlemen. Imagine this: you're climbing a mountain determined to reach the top. But strapped to your back is a massive bag filled with rocks, each rock representing regret, anger, guilt, or resentment. Every step becomes harder, your energy drains faster, and soon the mountain feels impossible to conquer. That's what holding on does to your life. It weighs you down. Today we're going to talk about dropping that bag, releasing those rocks, and discovering what it truly means to let it go. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine once spent years bitter over a business deal that went south. He was wrong, no doubt about it. But every time we talked, he brought it up. He'd say, "I can't believe they did that to me." And I'd ask him, "How long are you planning to carry this with you?" Because while you're stuck in the past, they've already moved on. Here's the truth. Holding on doesn't hurt the other person, it hurts you. As the saying goes, holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Letting go isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about saying, "I'm not going to let this control me anymore." Think about your mistakes too. We all make them. I've made plenty. Maybe you've made a bad decision, hurt someone, or missed an opportunity. But dwelling on it doesn't change it. Learn from it, sure, then let it go. Don't let yesterday take up too much of today. That's where the magic is, moving forward, not looking back. And what about forgiveness? Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? But let me share something I've learned. Forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's not saying I'm okay with what you did. It's saying I'm not going to let what you did keep me in chains. Forgive others. Forgive yourself. Set yourself free. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means you're choosing to focus on what's ahead rather than what's behind. Life is a book, and every time you cling to a chapter that's already written, you delay the story that's waiting to unfold. Imagine standing at the start of a beautiful journey. The path ahead is filled with promise, sunlight streaming through the trees, and you can almost hear the whispers of opportunity calling you forward. But before you take a single step, you realize you're carrying a backpack, not an ordinary one, but a heavy, cumbersome pack filled with bricks. Each brick represents something you're holding on to: anger, regret, guilt, resentment. And with every step, that weight pulls at your shoulders, slows your pace, and makes what should be a joyful journey feel like an uphill battle. That's what holding on does to us in life. It's invisible, yes, but it's real. It's a silent burden that saps your energy, steals your focus, and keeps you anchored to a moment, a person, or a feeling that no longer serves you. You know what's funny? Most of us don't even realize how much we're carrying. We get so used to the weight that it feels normal, but normal doesn't mean healthy. Think about it: how much of your mental and emotional energy is spent replaying arguments, second-guessing decisions, or wishing things had turned out differently. That's the backpack I'm talking about. Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Michael, once told me about a grudge he'd held for years against an old friend. The friend had betrayed his trust in a way that left him feeling hurt and humiliated. Now, Michael is a good man, hardworking and kind, but every time that friend's name came up, you could see the anger bubble to the surface. "I can't believe they did that to me," he'd say over and over, as if the act had happened yesterday. One day I asked him, "Michael, how much is that anger costing you?" He looked at me like I'd asked him the most ridiculous question in the world. "Costing me?" He said, "It's not costing me anything. They're the ones who did wrong." But here's the thing. While Michael was spending his energy stewing over what happened, his friend had moved on with their life. Michael was carrying the weight. The other person wasn't. That's the cruel irony of holding on. It doesn't punish the other person, it punishes you. Like the old saying goes, resentment is like lighting yourself on fire and hoping the smoke bothers someone else. You don't win by holding on, you lose every single time. Now, you might say, "But you don't understand, what they did was unforgivable." And you might be right. There's no denying that people can hurt us deeply and life can hand us unfair situations. But ask yourself this: does carrying the weight of that hurt change what happened? Does it undo the wrong or make the pain less real? No. All it does is keep you tied to it like a chain around your ankle while life marches forward without you. And it's not just anger or grudges. Regret is another brick we carry. Regret for things we did or didn't do. Maybe it's a decision you made years ago that you wish you could take back, or an opportunity you let slip through your fingers. We've all been there, but here's the truth. No amount of regret can rewrite the past. The only thing regret can do is rob you of your future. A friend of mine once said, "You can't change what you've done, but you can change what you do next." That's the key. Learn the lesson, yes. Take responsibility. Absolutely. But don't let regret become a brick you carry for the rest of your life. And then there's guilt. Oh, guilt is a tricky one. It whispers in your ear, reminding you of every mistake, every moment you fell short. It tells you you're not good enough. You'll never make it right. But guilt, when left unchecked, is just another form of punishment. And haven't we all punished ourselves enough? The truth is, we have to lighten the load. We have to take off the backpack one brick at a time. And it's not easy. It takes courage to let go. But every time you release a brick, you'll feel it. The lightness, the freedom, the energy you didn't even realize you were missing. Because life is not meant to be lived with the weight of the past pulling you down. It's meant to be embraced, experienced, and enjoyed with open arms and an open heart. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it didn't happen. It means choosing not to let it define you. Let go of the things that no longer serve you. Someone once said, because the tighter you hold on to the past, the less room you have for the future. Isn't that true? What if? Letting go often feels like a loss at first, doesn't it? It feels like you're giving up, like you're surrendering something that you've been gripping tightly for far too long. But what if I told you that letting go isn't about losing at all? It's about gaining. Gaining freedom, peace, and the energy to move forward into the life you deserve. Imagine you're holding onto a rope. Someone on the other side is pulling it with all their might, and you're pulling back just as hard. The rope burns your hands, your arms ache, and your focus is consumed entirely by this tug of war. Now ask yourself, what happens when you let go? Does the rope snap back and hurt you? No, it drops to the ground. The tension disappears. The burning stops. Your hands are free. That's what the power of release feels like. When you let go of something that's been hurting you, whether it's a grudge, a fear, or a regret, you're not losing control. You're gaining relief. You're gaining clarity. And most importantly, you're gaining the ability to move forward without that tension holding you back. I knew someone who was stuck in what I call the loop. Every time I saw her, she would bring up the same heartbreak, the same betrayal, as if it had happened just yesterday. She'd ask, how could they do this to me? And then replay the scenario in vivid detail. It was like watching someone stand in quicksand. The more she struggled to find answers, the deeper she sank into the pain. One day I asked her, what do you think you'll gain by holding on to this? She paused. For the first time, she didn't have an answer, but if I let it go, she said, then it's like saying it didn't matter. And that's where most of us get stuck. We think letting go means diminishing what happened or letting the other person off the hook. But here's the truth. Letting go isn't about excusing anyone's actions. It's about refusing to let those actions have power over your future. Think about the energy you spend carrying old pain. Every ounce of focus you give to what went wrong is energy you could be spending on what could go right. You can't start the next chapter of your life if you're still reading the last one. Letting go is not giving up, it's making space for something better. When you release what no longer serves you, you free yourself to grab hold of what does. Whether it's a new opportunity, a fresh perspective, or simply the peace of waking up each day without that weight on your shoulders, the power of release is transformational. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward unburdened, ready for what's next. Let go of the rope. The freedom you'll feel isn't about losing, it's about finally being able to breathe deeply, walk lightly, and live fully. We all make mistakes. Every single one of us. Nobody walks through life unscathed, without stumbling, without making a bad decision or taking a wrong turn. It's part of being human. Mistakes are teachers, not sentences. They show up in our lives not to shame us, but to shape us if we're willing to learn. The problem is, too many people get stuck. They linger in the pain, in the regret, and let it define them instead of letting it refine them. Think about this for a moment. Imagine you're walking down a road and you trip over a rock. What do? Do you sit there for hours staring at the rock, replaying the moment you tripped, blaming the road, or even blaming yourself for not seeing it? Of course not. You dust yourself off, take a quick look at where you went wrong, and keep moving. Life's mistakes are just like that rock. They're moments, not monuments. But here's the thing. We often treat our mistakes like monuments, don't we? We build them up in our minds, carve their details into our memory, and revisit them like we're obligated to pay homage to our failures. Why? Because we think that lingering will somehow make it better, but it doesn't. Lingering doesn't heal, it haunts. The lesson is in the stumble, not in the endless replay of it. Let me share a story with you. I knew a young man who once invested his entire savings into a business that failed within 6 months. It wiped him out. He was devastated, and for years he couldn't stop beating himself up. He'd say, if only I'd been smarter, if only I'd seen the signs, if only I'd made better decisions. Those if onlys kept him stuck. They robbed him of his confidence, his ambition, and his peace of mind. He wasn't learning, he was lingering. But then something shifted. One day he decided to sit down and write out everything that went wrong, not as a way to blame himself, but as a way to understand. He wrote about the risks he didn't see, the advice he ignored, and the lessons he could take from it. And in doing that, he realized that the failure wasn't permanent. It was a stepping stone. Within a year, he started another business armed with the wisdom from his mistakes. This time he succeeded. You see, mistakes aren't the end of the road, they're detours, and detours are part of the journey. The key is to learn what they're trying to teach you and then leave the pain behind. As the saying goes, don't trip over something that's behind you. Dwelling on your past missteps doesn't change them, but learning from them changes you. Think about a mistake you've made, something that still stings when you think about it. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this? Not why did this happen to me? Or how could I have been so foolish? But what can I take from this to be better, stronger, wiser? That shift in perspective is powerful. It turns a failure into a lesson and a lesson in a growth. When you linger, you carry the pain forward with you. It becomes a weight that drags you down, colors your choices, and keeps you stuck in fear. But when you learn and let go, you free yourself. You give yourself permission to move on without the baggage. Mistakes are inevitable, but suffering because of them is optional. Remember this, life is a series of experiments. Some will work and some won't. But every experiment teaches you something valuable if you're paying attention. The greatest successes often come after the greatest failures. The difference is successful people don't dwell on the failure. They extract the lesson, leave the rest behind, and keep moving forward. Learning from your mistakes doesn't mean you won't make new ones. Of course you will. But each time you'll stumble a little smarter, a little stronger, and with a clearer understanding of what works and what doesn't. It's not about being perfect, it's about being better. Mistakes and setbacks are not roadblocks. They're signposts. They're there to guide you, to redirect you, and to remind you that the path to success is rarely straight. Learn the lesson, adjust your course, and step boldly into what's next. Holding on to the pain, the regret, or the what-ifs doesn't serve you. Growth happens when you let go of the shame and embrace the wisdom. Life keeps moving forward, and you deserve to move with it. Learn, don't linger. Take the lesson, leave the weight behind, and keep walking. Because the road ahead is waiting, and it's full of opportunities for those who are both supported to keep going. Mistakes are inevitable. They're part of the process of living, growing, and striving towards something meaningful. Yet when we stumble, many of us tend to get stuck. We hold on to the pain, replay the missteps in our minds, and let regret keep us anchored to a moment that's already gone. But mistakes aren't meant to be prisons, they're meant to be lessons. The key is to learn from them, not linger in them. Think about this: when a child is learning to walk, they fall repeatedly. They might scrape a knee or bump into furniture, but do they sit there crying forever, refusing to get back up? Of course not. They learn, they adjust their steps, find their balance, and before you know it, they're running. The same principle applies to us no matter our age. Life knocks us down from time to time, but it's not the fall that defines us, it's what we choose to do next. I once met a woman who had spent years agonizing over a failed career move. She had taken a job she thought was a dream opportunity, only to realize it wasn't the right fit. When she left, she couldn't stop replaying every decision that led her there. What if I'd done things differently? She'd ask. What if I'd stayed where I was? Those would have kept her stuck, unable to move forward. One day, she decided to write down everything the experience had taught her. What she discovered amazed her. She'd learned more about her strengths and passions in that short time than she had in her previous decade of work. That so-called failure wasn't a waste, it was a turning point. Once she shifted her focus to the lessons rather than loss, she was able to take what she'd learned and build a career she truly loved. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. Those words remind us that mistakes aren't the end, they're a reset. They're a chance to refine your approach, sharpen your skills, and move forward with greater clarity. The danger lies in lingering. When we linger, we allow the pain of the mistake to overshadow the lesson. We let guilt, fear, or shame take root, and that weight can hold us back from opportunities and growth. It's like driving a car while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. You can't focus on the road ahead if you're fixated on what's behind you. Mistakes are powerful teachers, but only if we're willing to listen instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? That shift in perspective can turn any setback into a stepping stone. The lesson might be about patience, resilience, or even the importance of trusting your instincts. Whatever it is, take it with you. Leave the regret where it belongs in the past. Life moves forward, and so should you. Mistakes are moments, not definitions. Learn the lesson and step boldly into what's next. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concepts. People think it's about letting someone off the hook, excusing their behavior, or pretending the hurt didn't happen. But forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's a gift you give yourself, a gift that frees you from anger, resentment, and the invisible chains of bitterness that keep you tied to the pain of the past. Imagine carrying around a heavy chain every day. Each link represents a grievance, a betrayal, or an offense you've been holding on to. That chain weighs you down. It slows your steps and saps your energy. And yet, so many of us refuse to let it go because we believe that holding on somehow punishes the other person. But here's the truth: they aren't the ones carrying the chain, you are. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean you condone what happened or invite the person back into your life. It simply means you've decided not to let what they did define your present or control your future. As the saying goes, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Forgiveness is how you stop drinking the poison. I once met a man who carried anger toward his father for decades. His father had walked out when he was a child, leaving behind a trail of broken promises and deep wounds. The man built his entire life around that anger. He used it as fuel for success, but it also isolated him from joy and peace. One day, he realized that his father had moved on with his life, likely unaware of the anger that still consumed his son. It hit him: the only person his resentment was hurting was himself. When he decided to forgive, it wasn't for his father's sake, it was for his own. It didn't erase the past, but it allowed him to release the chain he'd been dragging for years. That release gave him freedom, not just from his anger, but from the power his father's actions had held over him. Forgiving yourself is just as important and often just as hard. We all make mistakes, and sometimes the hardest person to show grace to is the one staring back at us in the mirror. But carrying guilt doesn't undo the past. It only weighs you down. Forgiveness is how you say, I did the best I could with what I knew then, and now I'm choosing to move forward. Think of forgiveness as cutting the rope that ties you to the hurt. It's not a favor you do for the other person, it's a gift you give yourself. It clears the space for peace, for growth, and for joy. And it reminds you that while you can't always control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it absolutely transforms your future. Life is a book, and every one of us is the author of our own story. But here's the thing, too many people get stuck rereading old chapters. They linger on the pages filled with mistakes, disappointments, and pain, trying to rewrite what's already written. Yet no matter how many times you go over those words, they won't change. What's done is done, and the only way forward is to turn the page. Imagine your life as a blank notebook with infinite pages. Each new day is an opportunity to write something fresh, something meaningful. But if you're clinging to the past, if you're stuck replaying old conversations or revisiting lost opportunities, how can you focus on what's next? How can you create the next chapter of your life when your pen is busy scribbling on pages that are already full? I knew a woman who went through a painful divorce. For years after it ended, she couldn't stop talking about what went wrong. Every conversation circled back to the same stories, the same grievances, and the same regrets. She was so consumed by her past that she didn't realize her present was slipping away. Her friends started moving on, opportunities passed her by, and the life she wanted remained out of reach, not because it wasn't possible, but because she wasn't ready to turn the page. One day, a friend asked her, "What do you want your next chapter to look like?" That question stopped her in her tracks. She realized she hadn't thought about the future in years. All her energy had been spent on the past, and the story she wanted to write hadn't even begun. From that moment on, she made a decision she would stop reliving what she couldn't change and start building what she could. You don't let yesterday take up too much of today. Those words are a powerful reminder that while the past shapes us, it doesn't have to define us. Each of us has the power to decide what comes next. We can choose to dwell on what went wrong, or we can focus on what could go right. We can cling to old hurts, or we can use those experiences to fuel our growth and create something better. Turning the page doesn't mean ignoring the lessons of the past. Those lessons are part of your story and they're valuable, but they don't belong at the center of your life. They belong in the background as context for the new chapters you're about to write. Life isn't about perfect beginnings, it's about powerful continuations. Whatever your past has been, it's just one part of your story. The rest is unwritten, waiting for you to pick up the pen. Every moment you spend clinging to what's behind you is a moment you could be investing in what's ahead. Turn the page and start writing the life you've been dreaming of. The best chapters are the ones you haven't written yet. Let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored. We've talked about the weight of holding on, the power of release, learning without lingering, the gift of forgiveness, and focusing on the next chapter. Each of these ideas points toward one central truth. Life is about movement. It's about growth, change, and stepping forward even when it feels difficult. To truly live fully, we must learn to let go of what no longer serves us, take the lessons, and embrace what's ahead. Think about the image of a river. A river is always flowing, always moving toward its destination. Along the way, it encounters obstacles, rocks, fallen trees, steep drops, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't linger or fight to push the obstacles out of its path. It moves around them. It finds a new way forward, carving out fresh paths and reshaping the land as it goes. That's life. The current is always pulling us forward, but it's up to us whether we resist it or flow with it. Holding on to the past, whether it's regret, anger, or fear, is like trying to dam up that river. It stops the natural flow of your life and creates stagnation. You might think you're holding on to control, but what you're really holding on to is resistance. Letting go isn't about losing control, it's about releasing what you can't control and allowing yourself to move freely again. We've all carried that weight before, haven't we? A grudge against someone who wronged us. A regret about an opportunity we missed. or a sense of guilt over something we wish we'd done differently. The problem is, the longer we carry those things, the heavier they get. They don't stay the same, they grow. And as they grow, they begin to define us. But here's the truth: you are not your mistakes. You are not your pain. You are not the things that happen to you. You are the person who has the power to rise above them. Forgiveness is a big part of that process. And let's be clear, when you forgive, it doesn't mean you're saying what you did was okay. It means you're saying, I refuse to let what you did hold me hostage any longer. Forgiveness is freedom, plain and simple. It cuts the cord between you and the pain, allowing you to move forward without dragging it behind you. And forgiveness isn't just about others, it's about yourself too. We've all made choices we wish we could take back, but punishing yourself for them only keeps you stuck. Forgiveness is how you break free. The next chapter of your life is waiting to be written. But here's the thing: you can't write a new chapter while you're still clinging to the old one. The longer you stay stuck on what's already happened, the longer you delay the incredible opportunities that are waiting for you. Life isn't static. It's always moving, always changing, and always offering you the chance to start again. Think about the stories that inspire you most. Are they the ones where everything went perfectly? Or are they the ones where someone faced adversity, learned from it, and came out stronger on the other side? Your life is one of those stories. Every chapter has its challenges, but every challenge is an opportunity for growth, my friends. Growth demands action. It's not just about dreaming or hoping for a better tomorrow. It's about stepping forward even when the path feels uncertain or the obstacles seem insurmountable. It requires a willingness to let go of what's weighing you down: anger, fear, regret, or doubt, and replacing it with courage, resolve, and faith in yourself. It's not about knowing every step of the journey. It's about trusting that you'll figure it out along the way. Think about a climber ascending a mountain. They don't always see the summit when they begin. The path is rarely clear, and sometimes the terrain is rough, even dangerous. But the climber doesn't stop because of uncertainty. They focus on one step at a time, trusting their preparation, instincts, and determination to guide them upward. That's what growth looks like. You don't have to see the entire path to take the next step. Letting go is an essential part of that journey. And here's the truth: letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a practice, a skill you develop over time. You might find yourself letting go of the same fear, grudge, or regret multiple times. That's okay. Growth isn't linear, and neither is healing. The important thing is to keep showing up, to keep releasing the things that no longer serve you. I remember hearing the story of a man who had been deeply wronged by a business partner. His partner had betrayed him, leaving him in financial ruin. For years, he carried the weight of that betrayal, replaying the events in his mind, imagining ways he could have acted differently, or worse, plotting ways to get back at his partner. The anger consumed him. It affected his health, his relationships, and his ability to move forward. One day, a mentor gave him a simple but profound piece of advice: you're not punishing your former partner by holding on to this anger. You're punishing yourself. Let it go, not for his sake, but for yours. That advice hit him like a bolt of lightning. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but step by step, he began to release the bitterness. In doing so, he found the energy and clarity to rebuild his life and create something even better than what he'd lost. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the hurt didn't happen or excusing someone's behavior. It means choosing freedom over bondage. It means saying, this no longer has power over me. Each time you let go of anger, regret, fear, or self-doubt, you're clearing the space for something better, something brighter. Take a moment with me right now. Close your eyes and imagine the weight of everything you've been carrying. The disappointments, the what-ifs, the grudges, the self-criticism. Picture all of it as a heavy bag you've been dragging behind you. Now imagine letting go of that bag. Feel the lightness, the freedom, the possibility of moving forward unencumbered. That's what letting go feels like. Hey. Here's the beautiful thing about life. Every day is a fresh page waiting for you to write on it. The pages ahead are blank and the pen is in your hand. What kind of story will you write? Will it be a story of growth, courage, and possibility? Or will it be a story of clinging to the past, held back by things you can't change? The choice is yours. I once met a woman who had lost her business during an economic downturn. She was devastated, and for months she couldn't stop replaying the decisions that led to the loss. She'd sit with friends and family going over every detail, trying to rewrite the past in her mind. Then one day her young daughter said something that changed everything. "Mom," she said, "if you keep looking behind you, you'll trip on what's in front of you." That moment was her wake-up call. She realized she was so focused on what she'd lost that she was missing the opportunities in front of her. She decided to take what she'd learned from her failed business and start again. It wasn't easy, but with each step forward, she gained more clarity, confidence, and momentum. Today, she runs a thriving company, one built on the lessons of her past. You don't let the past write your future for you. Don't let old pain dictate the course of your life. You are not the mistakes you've made or the things that have happened to you. You are the person who has the power to rise above them, to learn, to grow, and to create something extraordinary. Think about the stories that inspire you. Are they the ones where everything went perfectly? Or are they the ones where someone faced adversity, learned from it, and came out stronger on the other side? Your life is one of those stories. Every challenge, every setback, every painful moment is a part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the end of it. This moment right now is your turning point. It's the moment you decide to let go of what's been holding you back, to forgive not for their sake, but for yours, to release the anger, fear, and regret that have weighed you down and replace them with hope, courage, and determination. Take a deep breath with me. Inhale the possibility of what's ahead and exhale the weight of what's behind. This is what freedom feels like. Freedom to create, to grow, and to step into the life you've been waiting for. The best chapters of your life are still ahead. They're waiting for you to step into them, pen in hand, ready to write something extraordinary. Let go of yesterday, embrace the possibilities of today, and start building the tomorrow you've always dreamed of. The story isn't over, it's just beginning.